Do you have a crochet hook that you're starting to learn how to use? Do you have a ball of lightweight yarn like 8-ply, DK or light worsted? Do you have a cold neck? Stick around and I'll show you how to make my soft and simple eternity scarf or cowl. This is a very beginner-friendly pattern and I will work in US crochet terms throughout. It's made with a lightweight yarn which will result in a really soft, comfortable scarf. We'll begin by making a long chain which will slip stitch together to create a circle so we can make the scarf by working in the round. I'm only going to use 2 stitches, a single crochet which I'll use for the first and the last round of the scarf, and a half double crochet which I'll use for the body, but I will walk you through both of those stitches. Now, when you work in the round, you have a seam. This is your seam just here. However, in the round, your seam can head off at a diagonal. So I'm going to show you a technique that will keep your seam relatively straight and yet is still beginner friendly and will hopefully result in a scarf that you can be very proud of. I'm going to be using 4 Seasons Marvel Soft 8-ply in this pretty blue-grey colour. The colour number is very long. There it is if you're interested. As well as your yarn, you're going to need a 5mm crochet hook, and your yarn label will probably suggest either a 4mm hook or a 4.5mm hook, and you can do that, but the larger hook will give you looser stitches and a softer scarf, up to you. But you will need scissors for cutting and snipping. You might want to have a stitch marker or a safety pin if you have trouble finding the top of your stitches, and you will definitely need a darning or embroidery needle for sewing in your tails. Grab your hook and grab your yarn and let's get started. Now, I'm going to put instructions up in the top left corner so that you can move at your own pace, as I'm going to be going fairly slowly. Otherwise, go slowly with me and we will make a slip knot. This is the tail end and this is the working end that's attached to the ball. I'm going to take the tail up over the top of my finger, cross it in front of the working end and hold it in place. Then I'm taking the working end, see how it makes a little cross? Lifting it up over the top of my finger and holding both ends of the yarn in place so I can very carefully lift this piece up over the other and over the tip of my finger, tighten them up there and pop your hook in that loop, pull slightly on the working end to tighten it up, and that is a slip knot and you are good to go. Now we're going to begin our pattern by making a chain of 100. So to chain, we yarn over and pull it through. That's 1. We yarn over and pull it through the loop. That is 2. Yarn over, pull it through the loop. That's 3. Yarn over and pull it through the loop. That is 4. Yarn over and pull it through. That's 5. So I will leave you here to keep chaining. Pause the video and when you have 100, come back and I'll show you how we start turning this long chain into a lovely eternity scarf. I have my lovely long chain of 100 here. And before we move on, we need to do a couple of things. We need to be sure you can identify the top and the bottom of the chain. Slide your fingers along the chain. The top of it is the flatter side and the bottom has these little bumps on it. Okay, can you see those? So now you know what the top of and the bottom are. I need you to make sure that your chain is nice and straight. No twists and no kinks. And then we can lay it out sort of in a circle, bringing the flat side at the end with a slip knot on it up to join the flat side where we're working. So just give me a moment while I straighten it out. Okay, so flat side is meeting flat side, and now we are going to put our hook just here. Have a really good look. You only need to catch one loop of that first chain, but that is the exact spot you need to put your hook to make sure that the circle at the bottom of your eternity scarf is not twisted or kinked. Yarn over and pull through those 2 bits of loop, and that's a slip stitch. And now we can start round 1 of our eternity scarf. We're going to yarn over and pull through, which is a chain 1, and it's not going to count as a stitch, it's just to get us up to the right height to work our single crochets. Insert your hook just here, yarn over and pull through. You've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and that is a single crochet. So if you're just beginning, you might like to grab a stitch marker or a safety pin and pop it in the top of that single crochet. So go under that little V shape there to capture that. And that will help you when we come to the end of round 1 to tell the difference between that little V and our chain 1. So let's work another single crochet together. Insert your hook into the chain, just catching 1 loop, yarn over and pull it through the chain so you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. That's the next chain. Going to insert our hook, insert our hook, catching 1 loop, yarn over and pull through that 1 loop, so you have 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And again, insert your hook into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Now I am working really neatly and really carefully, but I know that when you're first beginning and you're working into a chain, it can seem very fiddly because chains can gape. So if you're comfortable working in a chain, skip ahead and meet us at the beginning of round 2. Otherwise, stick around and I'll show you how it looks when you work into a really gaping chain and hopefully help you to figure out where you should put your hook. Here is my chain really gaping. Look at that. Nice and big. Okay, so there's already a stitch coming out of that great big gaping chain. Do not be tempted to put your next stitch in that space. You need to put it in this spot, which is the next chain along. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through. And let's have a look. Another great big gaping stitch. Where are you going to put the next stitch? Don't put it there, put it just here, which is the next chain along. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and check out the gaping chain. The next chain along is just here. Make sure you're catching that top loop, not getting the bottom loop as well. Make your stitch. Have another look at a gaping chain again. There we go. The next chain space is this one here. Hopefully it's starting to make sense. I'm going to show you a few more times though. That's the spot that we need to work. Okay, nice gaping chain space. Insert your hook in the next one along, drop your yarn, make that stitch. Another gaping chain space, and we'll put our hook into the next chain along, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. I do hope this is starting to make sense. Okay, we're nearly at the end of round 1. Have a good look at that. Pop a single crochet in here. And now we actually only have 1 single crochet left to make this round. That is where we're going to put it. That is where we're going to put nothing. This is the last spot we work into. That spot is actually the other side of the very first chain. It's where we slip stitch to join a circle. And if we worked into both sides of that, we would add an extra stitch every round. You only work into one side or the other. Okay, so that's the final single crochet for this round, and we're now going to slip stitch to the top of our first single crochet. If you put the stitch marker in, you'll be fine. Otherwise, just identify that spot we're not working into and the first chain that we put in to bring us up to height, and then that is our first single crochet. So pop your hook in there, catching both loops, pull up a loop and pull it through again to slip stitch. And congratulations, you've finished round 1. Now we're going to work round 2. Round 2 is worked in half double crochets. We still do a chain 1 to bring us up to height. Some people like to do a chain 2, but I feel like that gives you too much height. Personal choice anyway. So now we need to work a half double crochet. You yarn over, insert your hook into the top of that stitch, catching both loops of it, yarn over and pull through the stitch so you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through 1, 2, 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. You can pop your stitch marker in the top of that if you'd like to, otherwise we'll just keep going. Yarn over and insert your hook. You've now got 2 loops and the V on your hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. You can pull through 1 loop at a time if you need to, like I did with my first stitch. There's a stitch in that one. There is not a stitch in the top of that stitch yet. So yarn over and insert your hook. You've got 2 loops and the V on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the V. You've now got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. Yarn over and insert your hook into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops. Yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. I'll show you that one more time. Yarn over and insert your hook into the top of the stitch. Yarn over and pull through the stitch so you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Pause the video and meet me when you get to about here. Keep working your half double crochets until then, and I'll show you how we finish off this round and head into the next one. I'll just work my last stitch for round 2. Alright. So this spot here that looks like it's another stitch, it is actually the other side of the very first stitch that we worked. So because we worked in that half of it, we do not work in this half of it. We just slip stitch to the top of that first half double crochet and then we head into round 3. In order to have a reasonably straight seam on our scarf so that it doesn't head off on a diagonal, we're going to keep it straight by alternating where we put our first and last stitches. So in the round below, we put our first stitch in that first spot there and we left that last spot empty. So for round 3, we're going to leave the first spot empty and work into the last spot. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to ignore that and place our first half double crochet here in the second available stitch space. From here, you can pause the video while you work 1 half double crochet in each space. Unpause the video when you're getting near to the end of the round and I will just double check that you've understood what we're doing with that last stitch. I am reaching the end of round 3. That was my second last half double crochet I'm putting in. Now, I didn't work in this first spot here, so I do need to put a stitch in here. That is my chain 1, so it's the strange stitch that has the chain 1 coming out of it that I'm working into. Now slip stitch to the top of your first half double crochet just there. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull through again. So we are starting to create quite a nice straight seam up the middle of our scarf. And from this point you're going to be alternating your rows. So because in the last row we didn't work into that first stitch, in this row we're going to. So putting our first stitch just there. So I hope that's making sense to you, as from this point I'm going to get you to pause the video and work rounds 4 through 13 in half double crochets, alternating whether you put a stitch in that first spot or the last spot. However, don't worry, I'm going to pop back in just a moment to show you, hopefully, how to recognize whether you've worked into that first spot or not, so that if you forget where you're up to in your pattern, you can figure out where you need to start your next round. After that, I'm also going to pop back to show you how to change your yarn in the middle of the pattern, in case you come up against one of those dodgy knots that you just don't want to risk your whole scarf on. So either you can watch those little helpful hints or you can jump ahead to the beginning of round 14. Either way, good luck with your half double crochets. I've reached the end of a round, but what if you can't remember whether you started this round by working into that first space or not? Okay, do I work there or not? You just need to pull on this little chain 1 and have a look there. Do you see that gap how there is a little line of yarn that's visible just there. If you can see that little line of yarn, you didn't work into your first stitch, so you do need to work into that last spot. So I'm going to put a stitch there. I'm also going to show you what it looks like when you have worked into that first stitch. I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of my first half double crochet, and I'll do a couple of half double crochets so that I can work up a little sample for you so you can see what it should look like. I think that should be enough to give you an idea. Alright, so pretend you've come up to this point. Do you need to work into that stitch or not? Pull on that chain one and look, you cannot see that little line of yarn. I'll show you again. Do you see where there was that little line before? Now there's actually a stitch. There's the line, there's a stitch. So I definitely need to work into that space for this round. Hopefully that helps to make it a little bit clearer. I'm back because, oh no, my yarn, it has come to an end. What will I do? Sorry. Okay, what you need to do is start your half double crochet as normal, but stop at the point where you have 3 loops on your hook. Drop your old piece of yarn, you don't need that one anymore, and pick up a new piece of yarn. You need to fold the yarn in half. It's called making a loop, but essentially you're just folding it in half and giving yourself something to hook. Hook that piece of yarn and carefully slide it through those 3 loops you have on the hook to finish that half double crochet with your new piece of yarn. You might need to just gently tug on your old piece of yarn to tighten that stitch slightly. And then all you need to do is use the new piece of yarn and work on. So I'm tucking those 2 loose tails there. So I'm yarning over and inserting my hook under the stitch, but also under those 2 loose tails. And I'm pulling up a loop which wraps the tails up in a little tunnel and secures them just a little bit. I usually like to work 5 stitches over the top of my tails. I feel like that holds them in place nicely, but you are going to have to weave those tails in properly at the end of the scarf with your needle. But I will show you how to weave in ends when we get to that point. So once you've worked 5 stitches over the top of those tails, you just need to let them fall behind the work and just dangle loose so that there's something left for us to weave in. Just like that, let them drop. And you keep working the pattern and I will meet you at the end of round 13 to show you how we work the last round of your eternity scarf. See, they just hang back there out of the way. Okay, good luck with the rounds. I'll see you in a moment. I am just slip stitching to end round 13 and I'm starting round 14 with a chain 1 to get us up to height. Round 14 is worked in single crochet. We're just going to put 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around and then slip stitch to end the round. I'll refresh you on a single crochet, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop so you have 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, just in case you've forgotten the single crochet between round 1 and round 14. I'll show you one more and then I will get you to pause and I will leave you to it. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Fantastic. Good luck with round 14. I will see you in just a moment to show you how we finish off this scarf. I am slip stitching to the top of that first single crochet in the round and I am done. Hooray! And now for my favorite moment, grab your scissors and let's snip this yarn. Leave yourself a decent length of tail, about that long, and then snip. Okay, I'll need to put my hook back in there. Oh, just a moment. Split the yarn. Okay, so draw the hook out, slide the yarn out, and now I'm going to show you my sneaky way to tie off this thread by making a little pretend stitch. so that your weaved in end just disappears. Thread your needle like so. Have a look at your piece so that you're looking at the top of the stitches. Pull that tail forward a little bit so you can see where your last stitch, where your slip stitch ends, and put your needle into that next stitch along, catching both loops. Pull it through there and pop it back into the stitch and bring it out the back just here. Perfect. Okay, pull that through and have a little look. Look, from the top, it is almost indistinguishable from the top of any other stitch. It is such a neat way to tie off your work. But we still need to weave it in properly or it will just come unraveled. So we need to take it up and back, up and back. I'm just going to work my needle in there, trying not to split the yarn. And I'm going to send it off in this direction, going through the little tunnel that's made by the back of the stitches. Pulling it through. And now I'm going to work back in the other direction, going down the other side of the stitches, heading back this way. See, I know there's nothing particularly amazing about weaving in your ends, but when you're making your first couple of projects, it does actually help to be able to see someone do it. Even if you've done this 100 times, you're thinking, why am I watching this? I know when I was first learning, I found it very frustrating that people would tell me to weave in my ends, and I honestly did not really understand what I was meant to do there. So I figure for beginner projects at least, I should end by actually weaving my ends in, even if it is a bit tedious. All right, time to snip this. Ready for it? And you can cut it really, really close because it's nice and securely in. You'll need to weave in this tail from the beginning as well. You can't make a fake stitch with this tail. You just need to take it up and back a couple of times. Even if it's a really short tail like this one, do weave it in. Just do your best with it. And as promised, I'll also show you how to weave in these tail ends that are in the middle of the work from when we brought in a new piece of yarn. You'll have at least 2 of them if you have changed yarn. So thread them onto your needle. And because we worked the stitches over the top of them, it's as though we've already taken it in one direction already. So we've already gone that way, like that. We now need to take it up that way and back again and up again. So I'm just going to poke my needle along this little tunnel here. Again, trying my best not to split the yarn. Like that. And I'll take it back in the other direction. And just once more up the other way. I've only got a tiny bit of tail left, so a little bit fiddly. Here we go. Fantastic. That's all there is to it. And if you look at it from the other side of the work, you really can't even see where you've woven those ends in. And by the time you snip them off nice and close on this side, they'll be almost invisible there too. So just weave in any other ends you might have lurking around in your work, and then you are done. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the tutorial and you should have your very own soft and simple eternity scarf keeping your neck warm. If you'd like to make a matching pair of soft and simple gloves or a slouchy, check out my tutorials for those. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please click like, click subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.